A huge place where women get hung up is that, we tend to be more we wanna cling and to our investments, we want them to be secure, so we don't wanna take the risk, and, we've all heard about the wage gap, but the wealth gap is so much bigger than the wage gap, and that's because women tend to save but not invest.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome to Vivatude. I'm your host, Lauren Archer, for all things emotional and spiritual wellness. And when we are feeling insecure about our place in the world, especially our finances, that can make it very difficult to feel well emotionally and spiritually, just by nature of how the body works. Because when we have fear in our system, it literally changes the prefrontal cortex of how our brain works. It activates our, what they call the lizard brain, puts us in fight or flight, and it makes it very difficult for us to see the broader picture of what's happening. My guest today, Kate Phillips, is one of my co-hosts on Vivatude, and her specialty is talking about financial and occupational wellness. And so today we're going to do a little bit of a mashup. We're going to talk about the fusion and the interplay between our sense of worth, our sense of abundance and enoughness, and how we shift out of those feelings of fear and doubt and worry about finances, and we step more fully into our own empowerment. So, welcome, Kate. Thanks for joining me today.
Lauren, I'm delighted to be one of your first guests and just so excited for all that we're bringing to Vivatude.
Absolutely. It's a fun opportunity. I know you and I have known each other for over 15 years, dance in different circles, but the things we share in common is really about that empowerment of women and bringing ourselves into the highest and best state so that we can serve our people, right? So we can serve our community. And part of serving our community is making sure our own cup is full. So can you tell us a little bit about your work, what you do, what you offer, so that we can frame this conversation today?
Sure, sure. I sometimes call myself a wealth educator or a holistic financial coach. So, in the world of money, we've got accountants, we've got financial planners, we've got financial advisors, and people who sell us products, maybe an insurance policy or mutual funds. I'm not any of those things. So that's what I'm not. Uh, I am somebody who looks at the big picture and looks at our mindset. I believe so much begins in the mind, in our consciousness. That is what we are always creating from our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings. And I'm also educating people about how money works, how investments work, because I think that the financial corporations can be predatory. We know that they can be predatory. So I want to arm people with information and good information so they can make informed choices. They can select the right advisors, ask, good questions. But then we're also dancing in that area of mindset and, our thoughts and our feelings about money, which are so important.
Absolutely. I think it's really relevant about the feeling of disempowerment so many people have, especially women. I know myself, when I was I was part of a traditional, I was married for 18 years to my first husband, and he pretty much handled all of the finances. And I took a few classes and learned a few things. And yet, the way I was raised, my mother really didn't do any of that. My father managed the whole thing. And so I know times are changing and younger women are more adept. And yet it's interesting that there is this sort of air of confusion and danger, and things are
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
complex. You must hire someone to do it for you. So I think you bust those myths, don't you?
Lauren, I have a dream. My dream is this. Women come to me, mostly women. I also work with men, but women come to me and, they want to talk about their money. Sometimes it's what they're feeling. Sometimes it's, their actual money situation. And a lot of times they have retirement accounts. Pretty common that people have retirement accounts. And I will ask, what it, what are you invested in your retirement account? And I would say at least half of the time they freeze. It's like deer in headlights. And the answers I get are something like, I need to check. I'm not sure. My husband handles that. My financial guy, whatever he recommends, they don't know. And so my dream is to ask women what they're invested in, and they can tell me what they're invested in and why. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not getting advice and they're not getting help, but what it means is that they're not just handing over their power. Here, Mr. Wall Street, here's my money. I just don't know what to do with it. Maybe you can tell me. No, don't do that.
Right, right. I am so with you. Yes. And it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? I mean, there are basic principles, and
Oh,
I don't know if it's on purpose that it is not taught
yes,
in schools, but we
it's on
really
purpose.
can learn some of these principles. Yeah.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
give us just a general overview of like
Well,
what are some
just
of the,
we're
big myths? Yeah.
We're just not taught. We learn calculus. We learn algebra. We learn about, the triangles and geometry, but how often are you using calculus in your real life? Maybe we should learn about things like how interest compounds. And what we really should learn about is not just how our investments can compound and our savings can compound and the difference between saving and investing, because they're not the same thing. It's a huge place where women get hung up, is that, we tend to be more, we want to cling and to our investments. We want them to be secure, so we don't want to take the risk. And, we've all heard about the wage gap, but the wealth gap is so much bigger than the wage gap. And that's because women tend to save, but not invest. But where I was going with yeah, that we ought to learn not just about the compounding investments, but how costs compound.
Oh,
There
yes.
was a fascinating white paper, a study done called the Retirement Savings Drain, that showed that kind of a median and income couple in the US who were saving regularly in their retirement accounts, that they would lose well over six figures to the costs. That's money that is ending up in your advisor's pocket, or the brokerage company that you are investing with. It's ending up in their pocket, not yours. I'd like to put $100,000, an extra $100,000, in every woman's pocket. I think that would come in very handy.
That is a fantastic goal, yes. And what you mentioned, that notion that we feel that we need an advisor, and to come into the sense of empowerment that I can do this, I can learn this, I am capable, intelligent, and I can make decisions for myself. That's empowerment. I will say for myself, in my early growing up years, I prioritized spirituality and consciousness and learning about different things. And I had a belief kind of that money was sort of not spiritual, right? That it
Oh,
wasn't there.
yeah.
And I had to work with my own belief system to step beyond that. So can you talk a little bit about that
Yes,
crap?
we have so much in common, Lauren, and I know we're also both musicians. So, when I was in my teens and my 20s, my major in college was, in the School of Religion, and then I was also a musician. So I had the starving artist thing going. I had the money monk thing going, where I was just a little too good for money. And oh my gosh, what are those business, majors? What are they thinking of? What are they dedicating their lives to? And, it was a whole process of first realizing that I was prejudiced. That's not a nice word. Nobody wants to be prejudiced, but I was. And I was judging people based on their net worth or based on what they did for a living. The other thing I had to do was just broaden my circle of people that I was hanging out with. And pretty soon, then you realize, the judgments and the stereotypes and how silly they are. We can find good people and maybe not so good people, at every economic level. So, and then just being willing to learn, to be in the growth mindset about money.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some specifics. And Kate has fantastic advice on how to begin changing your thinking and your mindset around money. And that is so important. And so, wherever you are in your money journey, know that you can break through and have a new relationship with money, with uh, the sensation of scarcity versus enoughness, and the relationship you have with abundance. We'll be right back. This is Vivatude.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, one each week. We help you revivitude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.